Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes Podcast. Today we're here with Reese Harper, who is the founder and CEO of Elements. How are you?
Good, Garrett. Good to be with somebody across the table.
Yes.
No Zoom today. I like this.
No. Yeah, we had a scheduling snafu, and I'm like, it's just better in person.
Yeah, man.
Now you get to realize that.
Yeah, and I'm like 25 minutes up the road, so it's a long ways. In today's Zoom world.
Exactly. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, it's great, man. You guys have a fun setup here. I just really appreciate all the hard work you guys have put into Silicon Slopes, and excited for the summit, and hope that everything goes as well as you guys deserve. It's a great service and great part of the community here. So thanks.
That's very nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Unsolicited compliment. So thank you.
You did give me a water bottle.
All right, let's jump in with the founding story of Elements. Where did the idea come from? How did this thing get birthed?
I prior to this company, I founded a wealth management business called Dentist Advisors. And it's kind of a specialized wealth management business. The wealth management industry is getting disrupted a lot right now, and the firms that are like thriving are the ones that are kind of taking the path of medicine a few hundred years ago, where it kind of went hyper specialized. You have a foot doctor. Now you're going to have a financial advisor that just knows your occupation, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one day there'll be a financial advisor that services nonprofit tech companies like. But like what happens is you kind of as technology has kind of eaten up all of the, we'll call them functional jobs, to use Anthony Ulwick's terminology. The emotional jobs are kind of the ones that start rising to the surface in terms of importance. Like humans do a really good job at managing emotion and temperament. They're very good with therapy. I feel like especially post-COVID, it's like kind of taken off, where people need psychological well-being almost more than they need stocks traded. And so it's a question, of how the industry is going to kind of evolve. You see a lot of the technology platforms just eating those technical kind of functional jobs up. And so as I was building that Dentist Advisors business, as it grew and we started growing faster, I was just noticing that the existing technology platforms were not up to speed in terms of how they would allow me to quickly monitor someone's overall picture. So I had to spend lots and lots of hours to sort of get a holistic view of someone's money situation. So I started building some, I called a friend of mine. This is, I don't know, almost a decade ago now. And asked him, could we create like one number, one scale of financial wellness or health that would kind of help me get a pulse on somebody? And we spent a few days trying to consolidate all the variables down into like one scale of like, 0 to 100 or like A, B, C, D, E, F, and it was just a little too complicated, but we kind of gave up on that project. But over the preceding 6 months to 12 months, I was able to come up with 12 to 14 kind of KPIs that I was able to put into a dashboard that then let me just have the customer sort of self-onboard into that dashboard instead of me having to do all that work. And it made it to where I started seeing the hours that I was saving and the efficiency that was allowing me to jump right into the emotional jobs rather than just get stuck with gathering paperwork and identifying the gaps in someone's situation. So the idea was born inside of a business that was growing fast and is still alive today and doing really well. But it's difficult to fund a technology business inside of an existing company, especially when it's a service business that has high margins. We've got a good growth rate, but 30+% growth rate in services is like flying off the shelves. And technology businesses need much faster growth than that, and faster ROIs, and there's just more risk in development. So
yeah, that's intriguing because from an early age, like watching golf tournaments, that's where you learn about financial advising if you don't live in that world, right? Like, I think for a lot of people watching a golf tournament where they're just like Northwestern Mutual or Pacific Life or Charles Schwab or whatever, they're like, I don't have two nickels to rub together.
Yeah.
And these people are like planning for their kids' college and retirement and all of that. And it's always, can we do it? I'm like, oh, well, let's call the financial advisor. And I don't think that's how it really works in the real world.
No. Yeah.
And dentists are kind of unique, right? Like, they do take some risks in the early days, but then over time build up a pretty good nest egg and nice little cash flowing businesses. And they do need help in advising that. And so that's where you kind of cut your teeth, is with dentist's office.
Yeah. I mean, I started with kind of a broad, diverse group of high net worth families prior to dentists. But when I started my first wealth management business, I mean, it was 2007 in November, right before the recession, and I really quickly saw like this need to get hyper specialized and focus.
Yeah.
And I don't think the broad population like doesn't equally need advice on their money. Like it is historically, at least, it's the functional jobs, especially of like managing someone's money. That's kind of skews towards the high end, top 5% of income earners really need the functional jobs that a wealth manager can deliver.
Yeah.
But there's 300 plus million people in the country, and a lot of them really need the emotional jobs, we'll call them. I consider education and financial well-being like in part of that emotional kind of world. But it's really difficult for a professional to give advice to somebody when the prerequisite step is to collect all this information and manage all this information. And really, it's just not cost effective to do that. And so we've kind of created a way for people to have all their information there and be able to just have someone monitor, and not have to pay the cost of all of the functional jobs that come with, needing to be able to collect people's data and documentation and connecting accounts. And these KPIs I built just help tell the story of someone's finances really clearly, from anywhere from insurance to estate planning to cash flow to asset mix to real estate to investments and business equity and concentration risk. And it's just like all in this picture. Yeah. You just can kind of sit there and respond to questions. And you don't have to do all the functional work. So dentists could afford to pay for that functional work, and they could afford to and they need the probably more than the average person. They need that the emotional jobs that advisors can do. But I think I saw an opportunity where other firms around the country really needed the same solution. So
yeah, I love the idea. Let's go back. Let's reverse a little bit into Reese's overall view and philosophy of money.
Okay.
What is that?
Well, I love books and history and philosophy, so this is like a fun one for me. We could go clear back to like the Tao Te Ching and Lao Tzu, and or we could just stay here in contemporary land. But I kind of view, if you look at like the American Psychology Association's list of major stressors in America, money is the number one stressor for most people under the age of 35. It's the number two stressor for people above that age. Health usually starts picking up after we lose our metabolism and we start to need to exercise more. So money and health kind of change places for our biggest stressors. And I've found, at least in my experience, like the purpose of life for most people, what gives them value, what helps them feel peaceful, is being able to just enjoy their present moments. This interview, you're gardening over the weekend, playing golf. Like if you can just be present in your life, that's where your satisfaction, your happiness, your fulfillment comes from. And then when we're living too far in the future, or we're living in the past, kind of judging ourselves and the choices we've made, like we're not happy.
Yeah.
So we're only really happy when we're like accepting our life the way it is and just loving the present moment. And that's more, that's not my philosophy. That's kind of what remains after lots of philosophers have tried to tackle the problem of life,
Yeah.
And in finances, the financial kind of side, since that's one of our biggest stressors, it usually pulls us into the future really far. With a lot of financial advisors will run projections of like your 30-year future and kind of map it out. And it's either depressing or it feels great or, somewhere in between, but it just drags you into the future. Or it makes you like look at your past and be like, I was such an idiot for picking that job, or like I was so stupid, I didn't do that right, not have enough money. Look at me, I'm like broken. And what I've found is that, the goal of like money is to kind of help, or the goal of doing money right. Like if you're doing money right, money starts to recede in its place in your life, in your consciousness. It kind of starts to go down, and you start noticing your garden more. You start noticing golf more. You start noticing the kids more, your relationships more. And money's like kind of in the background when it's done right. But the industry right now, the wealth management industry especially, I mean, it's a lot of these financial advisors are just as scared and just as worried about their money as you are about yours. And a lot of times they project that onto you, and then they're worried about making commissions. They're worried about getting your money. They're just kind of like making the problem worse. And the software that they use really is all about forecasting instead of like, reflecting your present situation and then accepting that as what is and being fine with it. There's no bad or good. It's just like, here it is. And here's the next proximate step we can take to make improvement. Like if you're going to meet with a doctor, they're going to measure your blood pressure. They're going to measure your cholesterol. They're going to look at your scores, and they're going to say, this is a little bit high, and this is normal. Let's try to work on this and just take this next step. And good financial advice, I feel like, should be in that vein. We need to score people's financial wellness, identify the areas in which they might be illiquid or where they might be constrained. Maybe their debt-to-income ratio is too high, or maybe their savings rate's too low, or maybe they are spending too much, or maybe they're just they've got too much of their assets concentrated in real estate, and that's causing them to feel a little bit of anxiety because they can't take a vacation as flexibly as they want to. Like you just kind of identify these imbalances, and then you just take that next proximate step rather than painting the picture of this perfect future that's out there, because I don't think that exists, and I don't think it's actually motivating. It doesn't help people take action when you paint a bleak or optimistic picture of 30 or 20 or even 15 years out.
Yeah.
So my philosophy on money is that it should really support your psychological well-being, first and foremost. And then wealth maximization is it's a product of just taking the proper next step, and it shouldn't be the focus, So that's kind of a different approach that informs our UI. It informs these KPIs. It informs the way we talk, the words we use. We don't call anything retirement. We just say when work is optional.
Yeah.
And we just try to not create any binary states where it's like, now you're good, now you're bad, now you're 100% complete, now your Monte Carlo simulation shows a perfect completion score. It's like we're just trying to get people to accept their situation the way it is, whether they're worth $100 million or whether they've got a negative net worth, and then just take that next proximate step. So
I love it. Weaving in the overall philosophy, sounds like you can go back thousands of years.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
To some psychology of people just wanting to be happy.
Yeah.
And then like a nice set of KPIs and a dashboard. Right?
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think of it kind of like, in medicine, I think that's why doctors are trusted a little bit more than financial advisors. Financial advisors are, I think, only 4 out of 10 people actually trust a financial advisor. It's pretty low, where doctors are the most trusted occupation still. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that doctors are more objective for the most part. I mean, there's problems with Western medicine and the drug approach we're taking, and I'm not trying to like say it's perfect, but it's more objective in terms of science-driven like outcomes. And financial advice has been super subjective. I mean, like save up for a rainy day, or Dave Ramsey will say debt is dumb, and like those kind of platitudes, like they don't apply equally to all people. And so I think you have to develop like KPIs. For example, we have one called liquid term score. So your liquid term measures the number of years someone could last on money that's after tax and in banking or brokerage accounts, stuff they can access. It's just your liquidity. And if it's like a 0.25, that would be like 3 months or a quarter of a year. If it's a 1, that's a year. And there's a correlation to stress and your liquidity score. So if somebody's got a 0.5 liquid term score, but they've got like a ton of real estate equity, like, and they're feeling like, I don't know if I'm doing everything right, and I'm feeling a little bit stressed, and I'm not making enough money, and my rents are too low. It might actually just be that they don't have enough liquidity, and it might not be that their rents are too low.
Yeah.
It's just they're too concentrated. And so like that simple kind of like measurable, testable advice, I think is where we want to kind of see the industry go, away from like sales and just more to like the attributes of a balance sheet and the attributes of cash flow.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It seems well thought out, but it seems to be based in common sense.
Yeah. Like you won't see any of our KPIs like, ooh, that's a real strange one.
Yeah.
Like our biggest like mother of elements, like kind of your main wealth element is total term. And it's just someone's net worth divided by what they spend in a year.
Yeah.
And we just can look at that and see, okay, this person could go for like 52 years on their net worth. Like they don't need to be anxious.
Yeah.
Why are they so stressed? Why are they so on edge,
Yeah.
Or this person's like a 9 and they're 68 and they're just laissez-fairing it. And it's like, man, like, and they got a liquid term score of like a 0.5. It's like, we probably need to like lean into giving that person a little bit more of an eye-opener moment, come to Jesus, talk. Because they're not in a spot where they can just be so casual and take that trip to Mexico every like 3 months like they think they can.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Got it. Yeah, because when the rubber meets the road and you can't do something that you want to do,
yeah,
whether you're a 4-year-old or a 84-year-old, that's where you get a little bit grumpy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And okay, so I love the idea, I love the philosophy there. You're building the product, and then ultimately the business model for you guys is, who do you sell this to? Who are your customers?
Yeah. I mean, you have a couple of options, When we started, I thought, let's test consumer direct and see what the consumer can do with this. I was a wealth manager, and I saw, this industry as something that was sort of broken, and I was going direct to consumer in this dental business and having a lot of success, and thought, this tool might have a place there. So I did a lot of testing and price testing, and I found that when I would sell it into dentists as a direct tool, a lot of them would just immediately ask, this is so great. Can I ask someone a question, and is there anyone I could talk to?
Yeah.
And I kind of saw like, oh my gosh, even like as much content and videos and, educational material, and as sexy as the UI was, it was all native. It was mobile native, and it was super simple. But it was just like, there's still like an emotional component to some people, not everyone. But this customer in particular, I would say the stereotypical, I call it an entre-professional, sort of a dentist, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, an architect, engineers. These people, they're generally like hiring for emotional jobs, not functional jobs. Like they know how to do a Roth conversion or open a brokerage account at Robinhood.
Yeah.
What they don't know is if that's the right thing for them, and they want to feel confident. They want to feel like that they're making the right decisions. And I think that's probably, I don't know what percentage of America would be in that camp, but it's in my opinion, it's more than half.
Yeah.
It's definitely like, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say it's like 7 out of 10 people. They're more looking for fast track to knowledge on their finances, and they want confidence. They're buying confidence. And so you give them a tool and it doesn't really change anything, because they still don't have that confidence. It's tough to get computers to sort of do those jobs of, and Anthony Ulwick, again, I keep referencing his book. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it's called Jobs to be Done. And I think he does a really good job of talking through the different types of jobs that consumers hire, people for,
Yeah.
or products, or they're buying things for. But I feel like the emotional jobs are the ones where people get stuck with the money, and so we decided to go through the wealth management channel, sell B2B, just do a traditional B2B SaaS, and then experiment with a marketplace model and kind of see, because the experience I'd had with dentists kind of led me to see that it's probably more of a marketplace model than it would be a self-directed model. I think there's a big percentage of the market that can self-direct, and they'll build their own spreadsheets, and they'll cobble together all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And they have the confidence to do all of that. And then the people that are sort of like lacking confidence or want more accountability or don't have the background, they're just going to feel, and sometimes these are really sophisticated people. I was surprised. Like I did the work for my dad during his whole career, and hit my financial planning work for my dad. And he's a CEO. He's super competent. He ran a business that was very large. And it was funny. Like I kind of thought, he would stop calling me at some point, like maybe I'd run out of answers for him. But the reason he would call a lot of times was around like these emotional jobs, I don't know, should I do this or should I do that or how? And you could tell it wasn't like, should we do a 401k that has a Roth option?
Yeah.
But it was like, dude, I just don't know how to feel about this whole recession that we're about to go into. What should I do with my farm, or what should I do with my land, or what should I do with my cash right now? And these are emotional jobs. I don't think that's going to change. And people make poor decisions when their emotions are left unchallenged.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the key to good wealth management is you're challenging someone's assumptions about what they would do without you. Not because you think they should do what you think, but you just want to give them a chance to sort of, you want to expose their assumptions to the point where they can really decide if they believe and feel strongly about what they want to go and do.
Yeah.
And that might be buying Enron, it might be selling Enron,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a summary.
I love it. At the end of the day, there's like highly sophisticated, highly successful people. And I believe part of the reason they ended up there is because they ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It could be their equivalent. It could be a busboy. It could be a valet.
Yeah.
I found that they're gathering intelligence and information, and it helps them make that decision. But I've also seen like, it's not like riding a bike, right? It's like, all right, recession, farm, apartment complex,
new jobs, career transitions, selling a business, new liquidity. Should I do any nonprofit work?
Yeah.
Do I keep this for myself? Like a lot of these aren't like wealth maximization decisions. They're not asking you like, which is going to make me the most money. They think that's what they should ask. But when you ask them, or when you give them permission to like say, this isn't about what's going to make you the most. This is about what will actually bring you psychological well-being.
Yeah.
Then they go, oh, okay, well, I didn't realize that. I had permission to sort of like feel okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought I needed to be stressed and make more money, and like I had to put more away, and I had to be worth more. It's like, dude, like you're already living in a country and a society that has like a significantly higher standard of living than the vast majority of the world. Yeah. And your current finances are fine. You are fine. You're not in pain. You're not in pain.
Yeah.
Like you can feed yourself and you have a job. Like this is about improving your psychological well-being, not getting more and more and more and more. And I've found for a lot of people, even before they reach financial independence or this work optional moment, in order for them to be happy, they have to change their financial circumstances, even to sort of bring in things that they love more, bring in things that they feel like they're making a difference in the world, or that they're really good at. There's an old Japanese concept called ikigai. It's Ikigai, and it means life value or the purpose of life. And there's 4 areas, what you love, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and and then what the world needs. And we're all kind of struggling throughout our careers to sort of like figure out where we sit, what we need to pull in, what diverse things we need to pull into our life in order to find that ikigai for ourselves, that center. And so when you think about, giving yourself the freedom to sort of construct the life that you want, a lot of times that's what's required in order for people to feel, that zone of genius, that center, and then they can kind of take off and they can kind of have a new level of success. But if they fight against that and they just try to maximize their wealth all the time, like they can kind of be in a dark space for a long time, and so I just think we need more than we do. And I know that it feels better to have millions in the bank than tens of thousands. Like I know that objectively it does feel, you can have the luxury of sort of pausing more.
Yeah.
But I changed my life and changed a lot of the things that I did with much less than millions in the bank. And that's what helped me sort of find peace, happiness, not comparing myself anymore, not judging myself based on what I'm making. It's a great place to be. And you don't have to wait until you have all the money.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that because with these additional lines of questions and intelligence and just like seeing a clearer picture, because there's some folks that be like, you can make a lot more money if you go this route. And they're like, well, that's a lot more time and paperwork, whatever it is. Right?
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah.
Don't want to. And that.
Yeah. Or that doesn't give me energy, right? I'm not, that is going to bring something into my life right now that, I know isn't my zone of genius. It's not where I thrive. Like I'm Reese, I'm a undergraduate in music composition. I'm an artist. I love film. I love writing. I love artistic pursuits. I love concerts. I love live music. In order for me to like be in my zone of genius, I can't be running financial models all day.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy an elegantly crafted financial model and the insights I gain from that.
Yeah.
But like there's certain operational functions that I got to stay away from. There's certain like careers I don't want to go into, certain industries I don't want to tackle. I'm big on impact. And so for me, if the industry I'm working in doesn't seem to have a big impact, it kind of seems thin in terms of I'm just robbing from Peter to pay Paul in the economy, and we're just going to wipe out one industry to start up another.
Yeah.
Like I want it to be additive, and I want to see that I'm opening up a blue ocean, that there's a new market that wasn't touched before. That kind of stuff's really motivating to me, even if it means making less.
Yeah.
I mean it, and so I just want to live each day like feeling really good about my day.
Yeah.
And then let the chips fall, So.
Yeah. You probably will live a little longer.
I don't know, man. I still like eating all the food I like to eat. Yeah.
Well, at least it won't be like he died because he was just stressed out. all the
Yeah,
time.
dude, totally.
He died because he ate a lot.
He ate a lot of tasty stuff. Yeah.
All right. So if I'm understanding things, you've got this product, and then let's say it's Acme
Okay.
Corporation Financial Advisor, and they've got people that have been trying to build stuff for them for however many years.
Mm-hmm.
They start to use elements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably opens up more time for them, and their customers are happier.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it cuts out we've oriented the entire, like our main value propositions are like speed to advice. We've got a native mobile system that allows the customer to take an active role in collecting data and organizing their own information. They're kind of motivated to do that because you're comparing their dashboard against maybe a peer group or people like them. And so they like to see how their scores look compared to other people. It kind of gets them a little bit more engaged. It's a simpler conversation. Like I was at dinner with I think it was like a $36 million client just recently. And I didn't have to prep anything. I just show up, I open my phone up, we look at the KPIs, and we just talk. We talk about their life, and we talk about how, this person was really stressed out, super stressed out. And they had a part of their balance sheet was becoming like really concentrated. Like they had a few private business interests that were eating up probably 70% of their balance sheet, and a couple of them weren't short-term liquidity events that were coming up. And it was just an easy conversation to have and say, hey, let's make a couple of shifts to one rental property you own. Let's liquidate that. Let's create a little bit more liquidity here. That conversation, then the next conversation I'm having is with a school teacher who's got a net worth of like 240,000, and she's got 3 kids and she wants to pass on 10 grand to each child. And it's just the same allocation, cash flow, and I'm not having to do any prep. So the value prop is like speed to conversations, speed to impact. You're not bringing them into the kind of things that they don't want to be brought into. Like they don't want to look at a Monte Carlo simulation. They don't want to be asked like 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
They just want you just pull that dashboard up and get going.
Love it.
And you can just touch a score. And if a piece of data is aging, you touch that score and you can see the data is aging. So you just update a number real quick, and then now you know your score.
Yeah.
So it's really intuitive kind of conversation piece, speed to advice. And then the other things are, it really helps the wealth management market right now is a really narrow funnel. So it's like, you got to have all the money, you got to be rich, you got to have a lot of income, and then you got to go all in with me. Like the value prop of the wealth manager is like me or nothing.
Yeah.
And all of your stuff or nothing. There's never like any freemium. There's no like tiptoe in and try me out. I mean, it's just like a really difficult funnel. And so our product is sort of like geared to the front end of the funnel. We have prospect mode. We have, like customer mode. So you got clients and you got prospects, but you can bring a prospect in and just say, look, man, I'll give you like 30 days of insights on what I see and, how I would compare you and what I think about your situation. I won't charge you for that, and I just want to give you I can't give you advice because legally, like in order for me to give you advice, you got to sign an advisory contract, so there's regulation, but I can give you like some insights, not specific to you, but like compare you and say like most people in your situation have a debt to income ratio that's 35% or lower. Between 25 and 35% of your gross income, we would consider that a normal debt rate for your income level.
Yeah.
But you're at 42%. That's atypically high. We might need to look into either refinancing your primary residence, or we might need to look at like refinancing a student loan, or we might need to look at paying off one of these debts, or might need to look at extending the amortization schedule because like your cash flow is too tight. And that's enough of a value prop right there to get someone to go like, dude, no financial advisors ever talk to me about like wellness.
Yeah.
Or like they've only talked to me about life insurance or mutual funds.
Yeah.
Or some stocks.
Yeah.
And so that kind of conversation is what we're empowering advisors to have. Like we're for the first time, we're defining financial wellness. Like we're the platform that says, here's how you define debt, and 0 to 5% debt to income ratio would be atypically low. 5 to 15 is low. 15 to 25 is normal, right? We're defining these KPIs and giving the advisors some kind of framework that they can go with based on good data.
Yeah.
And that's not happening anywhere in the industry right now. Like no one's scoring someone's wealth or their wellness or their cash flow. No one's saying savings rates need to be X. They just say save a lot of money. Well, it's like, dude, if someone's making $100,000 a year, you shouldn't expect them to save more than 10% of their gross income ever. Like that would be, especially if they're married, especially if they have a kid. Like, don't beat them over the head with that. Like, you need to encourage them to go get some more education or mobilize their career, and build up some liquidity so they can actually take 3 or 4 months off and actually focus on education for a little bit.
Yeah.
If they want to make more. If they don't and they're happy and they're going to be fine and they don't seem to be stressed out about needing to make more money, then don't tell them they need to.
Yeah.
It's not your job to define what's enough for them.
Yeah.
And so that kind of speed to advice and getting the top of the funnel kind of wider. So instead of having like 5 prospects in and convert 3, you get like 200 or 300 in and then convert like 40% of them. It's just widening the funnel. It's going down market. You're able to go into these rising stars of the next generation and like capture them earlier. We're not really trying to kind of create a new product that we call financial monitoring. It's not planning. It's a new category. Being able to just see someone's picture, monitor it, and identify red flags.
Yeah.
And then have conversations. We think it's just more efficient. It's kind of where the market is going.
Yeah.
Less in depth in any one area. Like historically, it's been like deep cash flow simulations of the future and estate plan modeling and estate taxation modeling for the wealthy.
Yeah.
And so the industry's tried to take that software and then cram it down market and say, let's make a 25-year-old interested in an estate plan. It's like, dude, they're like at a different spot.
Yeah.
So we're generally targeting people in the accumulation phases right now. I mean, we're just released our MVP product like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So we're really early stages, and it's going really great. We're stoked. So
I love it. So if somebody's listening to this and they've got a financial advisor and they don't like the way things go, they could theoretically say, hey, well, listen to this awesome podcast, and there's this company called Elements.
Yeah.
You guys should use that.
Yeah, and they just add it onto their tech stack, and the customer, like if a customer or someone wants to like get access to this today, they can just email me, and I can like put them in my financial coaching like literacy program, and if they ever want to meet a financial advisor one day, they can, and they would just like invite that advisor into their data, let that advisor now see their data, and they could switch from a general education platform to like a more detailed wealth manager. But it's kind of like meeting people where they're at and letting them manage their wealth in one platform. So
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I guess that was the question. So if Acme Financial Manager is like, what is this thing? It's Elements. You should use it. Well, we've got like $100 million in R&D, and our CTO built this. If they want to keep that client, they would still use Elements, right?
Yeah.
In this particular case.
Yeah. Well, re-ask your question. I want to make sure I understood it. I didn't quite catch it.
Well, it's like we have like 50 years of like building systems and software, whatever, for wealth management. And now you're telling me there's this other cool dashboard
New
that
thing
you want me to use.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is your customer, right? Like,
yep. Yes.
So they can either carrot or stick. Right?
It's tough to like, for us, I mean, we had the existing industry isn't ginormous. I mean, this is it's billions and billions in spend, but it's not 10 billion in spend.
Yeah.
So you to rip and replace most of these systems that have been around for freaking 25 years. I mean, most of the systems they're currently using are architected in like 2002.
Yeah.
And they are so deeply entrenched. It's a big MVP.
Yeah.
To be able to rip that out, because there's integrations and there's compliance and there's all this stuff. Plus the DNA of our product is a lighter weight, faster kind of point to get to advice. And all these firms that are out there, they don't have an answer for that next generation. Like they have nothing for the next generation. They're like waiting for that person to get a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then they'll talk to them.
Yeah.
They might take you golfing or something.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, yeah, we'll take care of you. And do you have any money we could manage? And that's like the only value prop they're going to offer. And they'll take what little money you have right now, and out of the goodness of their own heart, they'll charge you a couple points. And then, they'll neglect you until you have a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you want actual service, there's our monitoring platform just allows value to be delivered to that next generation quickly, more efficiently, and the wealth managers can actually monetize it through one-to-many membership programs. They can do I've seen a couple of our customers just recently launch entirely new service channels. Yeah. Like pay $99 a month and come to our monthly webinar, office hours, and populate your data and get personalized advice. But they don't manage money for people. They just educate, or they do manage money, but they'll do it with lower minimums, or they will allow the person to manage their own money and just pay the membership fee.
Yeah.
So it's opening up like new channels of revenue for them in ways that they can then upsell other services to, and just convert more of these people to deeper and deeper relationships. Because most people, like I'm guessing you and others that are listening, a lot of people are just really skeptical of ever wanting advice from anybody in the wealth management space. That trust, like I said, it's just really low. So it's like 4 out of 10 people trust a wealth manager.
Yeah.
And so if you offer the customer, the prospect, some kind of experience that allows them to feel and understand these really critical pieces of advice you can provide, I I just think it's invaluable to a lot of these large firms, but they're adding that to their tech stack, and then we're integrating with all of their other junk. You know?
I love it.
Yeah.
Seems very flexible.
Yeah. Super cool. Yeah.
And when a new problem pops up, you build around that and
Yep.
think through it.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you guys have raised money, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Well, I would say it's been really, for me, it's been great. I mean, the last 3 businesses that I built were all bootstrapped, and it was a lot of hard work. This has been a lot of hard work, but it's also been much more fast. It's been like efficient, and I feel like I've had a great, I know who to call every time something pops up.
Yeah.
So for me, like I've gone from like skeptical of the venture market to like, I'll never do a business again without a venture partner.
Oh, good.
You know, like it's just too, the synergy I feel like is just too, for someone who values being present and like loving my day, there's just too much value that a good partner can bring. So it was great. I mean, you have to meet a lot of people. You have to get shut down a ton. I didn't have a pedigree like a lot of software founders might, where this is my second or third venture raise. Like this was my first venture backed startup in software, and I was in services prior to that. And so there was a lot of, skepticism. So, a lot of pitches and getting the right partner. Kickstart led our round, and they took a large chunk of the seed. It was a $4 million seed, and that it was really we had 2 other partners, SaaS Ventures and Grand Ventures as well, that came in behind Kickstart, and it's just been a really great partnership. And a few great angels, Jeremy Andrus. It's been really him and Aaron both been really supportive, and who else? The list is long. Tyler Hogue, he's been a great friend, good insight. Dave and Carl at Lucid,
mm-hmm.
and Dan Weiner is a guy out of new back east that's a big wealth manager that came in. We just had about $500,000 in angel capital that we allocated among a few people, and they've been just really great. So that's the group, and it's just been, to me, it's been really valuable.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for everybody, but for me, it's just been, there's hard times, and there will be hard times ahead, but I just really have valued Kickstart support. Gavin and Tanner have been excellent at Kickstart. So
yeah, well, like you get a lot with that group, right? Like to your point of what you're building, like sometimes people just want to talk, and ask questions. You get that with this new industry, right? Like, here's some money, and we own a little bit of the company now. We'll also help with advice and all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, it's been awesome.
And so for your emotional well-being, probably is additive.
Yeah, big time.
Very cool.
Yeah, and for me, again, I'm like not trying to wealth maximize. I'm actually trying to solve a problem, and I really get motivated by like solving a problem. I think you'd be like, if you say what's best for an industry to solve a problem, is it better for the founder to go at it alone, or to have some accountability and some insight and some structure from really capable partners? I mean, I think the customer is better off, with the more heads you get in a room.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to survive, and it's hard enough to make it work. I mean, the odds are like just really implausible. You know, I've been blown away, like going through just the odds of like looking at how many pitches Kickstart had to hear in order to fund the 40, maybe 20 to 25 pre-seed and 20 to 25 seed businesses, and on an entire round. I mean, they're hearing, it's not 1,000 pitches, but it's probably dang close.
Oh yeah. I
mean, you're funding a couple % of your pitches, and then on top of that, to get to an A, I mean, it's by the time you get done, man, it's just it's usually one company, man, that carries it, and why, you need all, and that's with all of that help, with all that support, with all of that wisdom, with all that experience. I mean, I think you just put yourself in a spot where the odds are even, the deck stacked more against you when you're not, opening yourself up to the feedback that can come from a lot of people.
I would agree.
Anyway,
I would agree. And,
kind of beats your ego up a little bit though sometimes.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, every freaking meeting, you're just like, yeah, I guess I'm an idiot. But
Oh, yeah.
I've now figured out the next step to tackle,
Well, if you're like me, you just accept that a long time ago. Like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah, dude.
And everything basically anyone says is like an improvement.
Yeah, man.
Like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I probably both had to you got to find what you believe, you find what your values are, get rooted in that, be confident in what you do bring. Like, I'm very confident in what I do bring to the table. And I know when I'm like outside my lane. Yeah. And that's really helpful to kind of feel the tension of being at the edge of a lane and being like, dude, this is a time I'm going to lean into some help. And this is a time I might like be a little more assertive and be like, guys, I know, like, this is the answer. It's right here. This is the product direction, or this is the messaging, or, this is the hire, or it's this person for this reason. And you got to stick with your gut when you feel that tension. But like, I always like to surround myself with as many pieces of feedback as I can to make sure I'm not being too arrogant and I'm not missing stuff. So,
yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. All right. What's got you most excited? Kind of final question, looking forward as you build out the team and the product. Where are you going to go?
Dude, I just love the idea of people right now, like, the volume has picked up a ton. We started native mobile. We just barely launched web and MVP a few months ago. So seeing like sales conversion rates hit, 30+% and feeling like we've got it, I don't know that we've got it, but, I got 60 to 90 days now with a pretty solid, like, consistent sales conversion rate. Now it's time to just start ramping up demos and increase paid media spend, find new channels. That's really exciting because it's like, okay, I think we got it. But there's a lot of surprises along the way. But just feeling like the customer in the future is going to have access to, like, I'm a big believer in coaching. I'm a big believer in therapy. Mm-hmm. My wife knows that. And I'm a big believer in, couples therapy. I work out with a personal trainer 3 times a week. I have a business coach. I've got a life coach. Like, I'm a big believer in getting feedback. I've got, a VC. I've got great people like Gavin and Tanner give me feedback all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like the idea that in the future, more people in the U.S., because of the way the role technology can play, it can get people exposure to getting a reflective feedback from a coach, from a therapist, a financial therapist.
Yeah.
Like, at a lower cost, and make it more accessible in group environments, in one-on-one. Just the cost of giving advice is going to come down so much. And instead of like being like $1 million minimums and $500,000 minimums, you're going to see some of the best firms in the country are going to be like, okay, this blue ocean out there, like, we need to go after it because we can use the talent in our firms, like all these advisors that are sitting here waiting for wealthy people to show up at the door.
Yeah.
If we can just actively deploy them in this environment, giving advice through one-off consults or group training or, one-to-one where the customer's controlling the management of their data so that we don't have to kind of incur the marginal cost of onboarding a new customer. Like, they just get all this EBITDA for like free. I mean, it just like hits the bottom line because they already got the human capital sitting there. They've already got this knowledge, in many cases like niche knowledge. Like, Dentist Advisors has like freaking tons of niche knowledge, but they've been at the high end of the market until I was able to build this product out.
Yeah.
Now they're launching membership programs. They're getting like contracts from employers, like saying, yeah, give a wellness program to our employees. And I just think we're going to see, instead of like 5% of the population getting advice from a real professional, you're going to just see the market get larger. And that's just like super exciting because what I want to see is my little brother get some decent advice and, my sisters get some advice. I want people that are, at the median income level, slightly higher.
Yeah.
And then I want to see people like that client I mentioned. It's like tens of millions of dollars. I want to see my conversation with them be cost effective and efficient. And I don't want to be like dealing with paperwork and organizing information. And
Yeah.
so I think computers are just going to eat up all the functional jobs of organizing and analyzing data. And then humans are going to be left with making decisions with people.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a really cool, efficient future that's like a new market. So
Yeah.
anyway.
It'll probably translate to like people being happier in the present.
I hope so, man.
There you go.
I mean, that's the mission of the company, help, people live their present lives to the fullest, So it's, I'm just excited about that.
Love it. Well, we could go on for a while with this one, but thank you so much for joining, Reese. This has been fun and insightful, and I think what you guys are doing is going to impact a lot of folks. So
Thanks,
congrats.
man. You too. Appreciate all the work you're doing here.
Thank you.